What's the scariest thing going on in our world right now that not enough people know talk about? The collapse of the insect population. Over the past 5 to 10 years, the insect population in our neighborhood has tanked. No more fireflies, no more bees, no more butterflies. And this year was the first year toads didn't come to our swimming pool and have their orgy. It's terrifying how quickly these changes have taken place. Superbug STDs and other superbug infections. An incurable gonorrhea is now a thing. Not the scariest, but a lot of the people who helped clean up the BP oil spill from Horizon are suffering long-term medical issues. Their case has been essentially swept under the rug. Antibiotic resistance and the overprescribing of them. I don't think this gets talked about nearly enough, and it's already a problem. I remember reading an article recently that said in the future antibiotic resistant bacteria related deaths will surpass cancer deaths. When Texas flooded during Hurricane Harvey, there were 13 Superfund sites that got hit. A Superfund site is an area where there are hazardous substances or pollutants on a huge scale. A bunch of chemicals got swept away into those floodwaters and no one will know the effect for years. I think the scariest thing is that everyone is talking about things that should terrify us, but we are all too apathetic to care. The Argus's real-time surveillance system can fly for months at a time and has a camera array that can track every moving object even a few inches small in a 36 square mile radius. It streams 6,000 terabytes of footage a day and all of it is processed real-time for asset and target location on the ground. They are used domestically and internationally. If you live in DC, Maryland, or Northern VAP, chances are there's at least one tracking you right now and recording all your movements into a threat assessment database. Here's a video documentary of it flying over Maryland and some of the tech behind it. The sterilization crisis in the medical device industry and how it impacts our access to safe medical products, and on top of that how major companies have been off-gassing toxic ethylene oxide gas that has been causing cancer in people who live next to factories for years and no one cares. The amount of microplastics, medicine and unkillable pathogens in wastewater treatment. Due to the relatively low medicine concentrations, bacteria and viruses are building up resilience against the common antibacterial and antiviral medicine, which will eventually form a superpathogen that requires a totally new production method. Microplastics are very destructive to aquatic life and will do a lot of damage to the marine life. Water in general will be the new oil due to climate change, so that won't be fun either. I'm not sure if it's the scariest for the short term, but the death of reality. By that I mean how almost every person giving us information, news, blogs, etc. is fabricating or obscuring the truth for better profits. They understand anger keeps people interested in coming back and go to disturbing lengths to push for those narratives. Trying to follow a news story most of the time is jumping from hyperlink to hyperlink between different news sites with no originating source to be found. I've seen a TED talk where the speaker openly mocked any sort of critical discourse of his topic that went unnoticed or uncaring. I thought Vice was pretty good, but they also started being openly biased and made me question their authenticity. Unbiased journalism is dying, as far as I can see, and it's rarely discussed. Last night I watched the documentary Dark Money on Amazon Prime. It focuses on Montana as a microcosm of how corporate interests are attempting to wind back the clock to the days when a company could control government. Basically, they look back at the company town mentality of 100 years ago and the model where wealthy business owners could buy an entire legislature and say that's awesome, let's do that. Checks and balances? Oversight? Journalism? Some form of structure that would stave off corrupt practices? They're working towards a paradigm where none of that is active and democracy is as dead as last year's flowers. Right here in the land of the free. I've definitely noticed a decline in the number of bees and monarch butterflies over the years. I used to see hundreds of both every spring this year. I haven't seen a monarch and honeybees is less than 20. It's crazy to see such drastic changes in less than a decade. There is straight up, actual human slavery that is going on in parts of the world. We've just kind of been collectively uninformed / ignoring it, and it's really messed up. In the frozen ice of Antarctica there are really old bacteria. Older than humans. If the ice melts then those bacteria would release, and since nobody is resistant against them, who knows what's gonna happen. Plastic. It's everywhere. In our waste. In our food. In our bodies. In our drinking water. Obviously we know it's in the sea. Sure, grocery stores are slowly rolling out not using plastic bags, which is awesome. But it's scary how it's taken over everything in our lives. Even in money. We can't stop using it, yet it's building up waste everywhere, and it's causing issues in our bodies with all the microbits we have consumed. That PR, advertising and marketing, have infected our minds so much virtually all of people's lives are now about perception manipulation. Changing the way you think about things, and how other people think about things. Presenting yourself and your life correctly, saying the right words, parroting the right ideas. We are so self-obsessed we think our perception is reality, we are forgetting that what we think and say is nowhere near as important as what we do. Kessler syndrome. The sky above us, space, is getting flooded with orbital debris. Some of the pieces aren't even detectable. So those pieces hit satellites, which turns into more debris which hits more satellites. It could just end with no more GPS, signal, research and more. Planes would also be disrupted along with boats due to their communication system. It would take years to recover from this. I would say mass extinction and climate change are underrepresented. We're on course for 1 to 2 meters of sea level rise, which would mean that we'd have to abandon a lot of coastal cities, but people care more about making money now than about having a place to live in a century. Species are dying at an alarming rate, and politicians can't agree on anything more than a weak intention, which the US pulled out of. North Korea's seed-bearing program. They send out attractive female spies to seduce powerful non-Asian, usually white men, journalists, business leaders, and political officials. They have the women bear their children, then return to Pyongyang to have the children there. From there, they extort the fathers for financial gain, favorable political actions, and favorable coverage in news. The children are raised and fully educated in North Korean ideology and are trained as spies. The result is well-educated versatile spies that look Western instead of North Korean, who are to be sent out to their fathers' countries of origin to infiltrate agencies and gather intelligence for North Korea. Between 1 and 2 million people are in concentration camps in China right now because of their origin and religion.